At first, the knocks didn't change. They still came late at night, still came when the house was quiet, still came when she was awake but pretending not to be. But then, they started coming in pairs, not random, not chaotic. 2 knocks. A short pause. Then 2 more. Always the same spacing. Always the same rhythm. She told herself it was nothing. Old buildings make noise. Pipes knock. Wood expands and contracts. Neighbors do stupid things when they're bored. That's what she repeated in her head every night, a mantra against the dark. Because believing that was so much easier than believing the alternative. The first time she noticed the pattern, she laughed. It was a quiet, nervous laugh. The kind you make when something almost scares you but doesn't quite cross the line into real terror. 2 knocks, a short pause. 2 more knocks. She waited. Nothing else happened. No footsteps receding down the hall. No voices muffled by the door. No jiggle of the door handle. Just a silence that felt heavy, thick enough to press against her ears. After that night, she stopped ignoring it. Instead of pulling the blanket tighter over her head, she would lie perfectly still, listening, waiting. Her eyes would stay wide open in the dark, fixed on the faint, rectangular shape of her bedroom door. She started checking the time, every single night. Before the knock. 2:58 a.m., 3:03 a.m., 3:07 a.m. It was always close. Always approaching the same impossible moment. One night, the knock came earlier. 3:11 a.m. For some reason, that bothered her more than anything else had so far, because if it were random, if it were just a coincidence, it wouldn't adjust its timing. It wouldn't change. That night she didn't move. Didn't breathe. Didn't even blink. The air in the room felt frozen. Knock. Knock. A pause. Knock. Knock. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure it could be heard on the other side of the door. A frantic drumbeat against her ribs. She waited for it to stop, for the sequence to end, for the silence to return. But it didn't. The pause stretched longer than it ever had before. Long enough for a thought to form. A terrible, curious thought. What if it's waiting too? Her throat felt like sandpaper. Her voice, when it finally came out, was smaller than she expected. It was barely more than a whisper of air. Hello? The word just hung there in the stillness, fragile, exposed. For a moment, nothing happened. A beat of pure, unbroken silence. She almost convinced herself she'd imagined it all. The knock, her own voice, all of it. Then knock, knock, answered. The same rhythm, the same spacing. Exactly like it had been listening. She didn't scream. That's the part people find strange when she tells the story. She didn't scream because screaming would mean admitting it was real. And she just wasn't ready for that. Not yet. Instead, she just sat there, frozen, as the suffocating silence returned to her room. From that night on, the rules of the game were different. The knocks never came alone anymore. They were always in pairs. Always precise. Always patient. She started to test it. Some nights, she stayed awake on purpose, staring at the ceiling, waiting. Some nights, she checked the time every single minute. 3:09, 3:10. Then one night, the knock came at 3:11 again. Earlier than it used to. It was almost like it knew she was watching the clock. She stopped whispering after that, stopped responding at all. But it didn't seem to matter. The knocks continued. They weren't louder, they weren't faster, they were just consistent. Like a habit, like a conversation waiting to resume. The last time it happened, she checked the time first. 3:10 a.m., she whispered to herself. Too early. She was wrong. Knock. Knock. It came before 3:12, before the time it used to come. As if whatever was on the other side had learned her patterns and adjusted its own. She hasn't answered since that night. But every night, when the house goes quiet, she still listens. Because now she knows something important. The knock isn't random, it isn't a coincidence, and it isn't just noise. It's paying attention. If you're hearing patterns that don't make sense, if something in your house seems to be learning, the next episode drops tomorrow nights. Subscribe. Don't ignore it.